Hello ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about questions because a critical part of business-to-business selling is managing information, is gathering as much information as you can about the sale and slowly focusing that information down, focusing on the details which are most important to drive the sale forward and understanding the client's needs and vision. So we do that by asking questions. And here we have a number of different styles of questions you can ask. There are open questions. These are questions which cannot be answered with a yes or a no. For example, what's the weather like today? Now, open questions have the advantage of getting the client talking, of getting this avalanche, this flow of information going, and getting the person moving towards in the right direction. And because, of course, open questions are great, they get the person talking, because what do people love talking about most? Themselves. Now, once they get talking, we've got follow-on questions where we're very interested in asking about numbers and opinions. Now, follow-on questions give direction to the call. The customer will be talking about many different things, okay? And you're probably only going to dig down into one or two of those things which are relevant to what you're actually trying to do and is relevant for the client as well in your relationship. So it's using follow-on questions that you do that. The numbers are obviously for building the business case behind your sale, and opinions are for understanding where you stand with the client and in which direction as well you need to go as well, or which opinions you need to change. Influencing questions are an interesting one because that's where you ask a question to influence the client's thinking instead of telling them what they should be thinking. Because if you ask a question, what happens is slowly the client starts thinking about it and then bing, they get the idea. And if they get the idea, then they have a feeling of ownership of the idea, and they're going to chase that idea much more strongly. Now, the final kind of question we have here is the closed questions. And closed questions come in two different forms. There's one very high risk and the other is very low risk. On the high risk side, that's where we're pushing the customer to make a decision, yes or no. An example of a very high risk question is, will you sign the contract? Now that's pretty high risk if the person has the wrong answer. Now, let's look at the low risk use of yes-no questions. If you ask a low risk question, it's very easy to give a yes-no answer. You don't need to think about it much publicly, and you don't need to actually justify your opinion when you first give the answer. And so people are much more likely to actually say, oh yeah, I think that's correct or not. And then of course you can dig deeper to say, tell me why. Now there's an interesting one there. You may, for example, ask the client, yeah, can you tell me, do you agree with what I just said? And the client may say, did you see that non-verbal movement, that slight nod of the head? The person didn't even answer you, and you know they're already thinking about it. And if they're already thinking about it, you're warned that you're going to ask the question, and then you can start digging deeper and going down to detail by asking, well, tell me about it. Why do you think that? So that's the two uses of the closed question. So, the problem with asking questions like this is that for the client, it can feel like an interrogation if you're just firing off questions like one after the other, bam, 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 bam. And so what's extremely important to do is to keep a normal flow of a conversation. And by doing that, you're doing mainly two things. And that is, you explain why you're actually asking the question. You're explaining why you need the information. And, of course, sharing information. Because Business-to-business sales is a lot more than just goods and services moving in one direction and money moving in the other direction. In today's economy, it's knowledge and information that counts. And so as a business-to-business sales specialist, you're an expert in your field, and your information and knowledge is very, very important for the customer as well. So by sharing information, you're giving them something very, very valuable. So that's an overview of the kind of questions you can ask to start moving towards understanding the client's needs and actually influencing their understanding of the needs as well. Let's now look at an example. So let's look at an example now. Let's look at a supply chain management example. On the one side, we've got a salesperson from a technology company, and on the other side, we've got a supply chain manager of a supply chain. So they've already had a chance to chat and warm up and feel comfortable with each other, and then the seller says, "Listen, customer, I'm going to have to start asking lots of questions now so I can fully understand your needs so that I can design the best solution to actually meet those needs. Is that okay?" "Well, gee, I guess so." "Okay, thank you. Now, you told me you had problems in your supply chain with leakage. So of products which are sent from A to B, you lose 20% of the products on the way." "Yeah, well, we do, I know. That's right, it's not great. Well, can you please tell me more about that?" "Well, yeah, certainly. Of the 20% of the products which we're actually losing, 10% of them are actually broken on the way, so they arrive damaged, but 10 of them are actually lost." "That's interesting. 10% are actually lost. Is it all being lost in the same area, or is it being lost in different areas as well?" "Well, we believe it's being lost in a couple of different points. I mean, the system's not very accurate, so there is simply being lost in warehouses and things along the way, or by the postage systems. There's also some losses probably to corruption, making sure that some of the products get through some of the tighter borders and things like this. And then, of course, there's theft as well." "Really? Now, theft? That's interesting. Can you tell me more about what's happening with the theft?" "Well, yes, I can actually. The theft, we think, happens at a number of different points. Interestingly, at the warehouse, which the products start their journey on, Nowhereville is a big problem as well. And then on the arrival point here, when they actually start entering shops and things like this." That's interesting. Could you tell me more about Nowhereville?" "Well, yeah, Nowhereville, now that's a hard place to be. And we're pretty sure that we're losing most of our products in Nowhereville. Nasty places, Nowhereville." "Interesting. Do you know what kind of numbers we're talking about?" "Well, not 100%, but we think it's around, of all the products which we think are being stolen, we think about 70 to 80% of that is actually happening in Nowhereville." 70 to 80%? That's a lot. But you said you're not quite sure. Would you be interested in a way of actually finding out more about that?" "Well, yeah, I guess that would help a bit, but it wouldn't solve the problem, really." "No, I guess you're right about that. But when we're actually looking at that, have you thought about different ways maybe of being able to track individual products so you can see if they actually leave the supply chain?" "Well, yeah, I have thought about that a little bit. Till now we've not found anything which I think is suitable for Nowhereville." "Yeah, Now, I actually came across a company at one time who worked with RFID chips. And so the chip, once it was mounted on the product, could be scanned and they could see wherever that product was in the system. Does that sound interesting to you?" "Yeah, I've thought about the RFID, but you know what happens in Nowhereville? I spoke to someone as well. The people, they just rip them right off, and that's the end of the story. We know the RFID chip is still in the warehouse, but the product, that's long gone." Ah, that's interesting, isn't it? How, creative people can be there as well. Well, I wonder what other ways we could actually work with actually monitoring that warehouse in Nowhereville. Have you thought about having more security or perhaps more ways of watching what's going on there? Well, yeah, we have thought about that, but you know, the local security guards, I think they're involved in that system as well. So have you thought about maybe remote security guards? Remote security guards? No, I haven't thought about that at all. What do you mean by that? Ah, that's interesting that you ask. Listen, would you like to find out more about our solutions where we have remote surveillance of difficult places like Nowhereville? Well, gee, yes, I would. I look forward to that. Thank you very much, salesperson. You're welcome, client. I'm here to help you.